Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there.
Greetings and welcome again to another episode of Navel String Connections. I'm BILAL Morris, live here in my studio in Los Angeles, and with my host and co-host ARIA LIGHTFOOT, live from Hurricane Land, Florida, from Tampa. ARIA, we got to make sure we say that from Tampa, and we also have with us Verlene Pitts, also from the Florida area. Hey guys, this is going to be a very, very interesting, informative, and good show because our guest ARIA, our host and co-host ARIA is going to be a witness interview today, along with Verlene Pitts, and we are going to be talking about the Hurricane Milton that just yesterday hit the Florida area. It was a very scary hurricane. I've been watching it and inviting you, our listeners and viewers across the Belizean diaspora, to tune in. And we again want to say this is a XTV production. Our producer is Nur Muhammad. The man behind the control, our engineer, is Harlan, and we want to send greetings to every one of you in Belize, across Belize, who are tuning in and watching this on XTV, as well as those viewers on YouTube and on Facebook who is watching and listening to us. ARIA, we want to take it over to you and Verlene so that you guys can share with us, man, how it all went down.
So I wanted to add, good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. But I also wanted to add that Delmari Pitts, unrelated
sorry about that. Yes.
unrelated to Verlene Pitts, is also on the show, and she's driving right now to go to Miami. So I wanted to start with her first. So Delmari and her family owns this it's a catering company, and they are called, just to get it correct, they are called Dee's BZ Corner. So Dee's BZ Corner in Riverview, Florida. She also felt the impact of the hurricane in Florida. And let me tell you, they did something extraordinary today. They actually cooked and gave out 40 free meals to Belizeans who were impacted. Riverview is an area where there's a lot of Belizeans, and a lot of people lost power, and some people had some damages. So, Delmari, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, good night, everybody. My name is Delmari Pitts, also known as Miss D. I'm the co-owner, joint owner, of Didi's BZ Corner here in Riverview, Tampa. Myself and my husband, we own this business, Dorian Pitts. Today, however, my mom and my brother joined with me in creating this little giving back to the community that we did,
So Delmar, just to take it back a little bit, could you tell us where you're from in Belize, and also just tell us a little bit about your business, how you were impacted, what was the hurricane like for you, and why you felt the need to give back?
Okay, so I'm originally from Cat Landing Village in Toledo District. I grew up in Belmopan. Basically when it came to the hurricane, we had severe winds. Oh my gosh, it was terrifying. It was something that I have never dealt with before, and realizing that a lot of people got impacted way worse than I did, because the only thing was that my roof suffered, but that can be fixed. I'm grateful that we had no loss of life. What I do is I cater basically Belizean food when it comes to purut, sere, rice and beans, panadas, garnachas, anything and everything Belizean, I can and will do it. I enjoy what I do. I love to cook, and I try my best to do everything with love. You know, everything that I do it with love. Today, we decided actually that we're gonna do a little food support to Belizeans and others in need of a warm meal after the hurricane, because for me, I felt that it's a way to help those affected by the disaster, you know, offering comfort and relief. And at this point, there was no electricity in our area, no internet in our area. So getting a warm meal was something that I'm pretty sure was hard for a lot of people because we cook on electric stoves. So I have a propane burner, and my mom and I, we were talking, and she was like, maybe we should do this, and I was like, yeah, you're right, let's do this. And we got together and we just started about cooking, and we decided we're gonna give at least 40 plates to Belizeans and others in the community who need it at the moment.
And Delmar, did people take advantage of your generosity?
Oh yes, they did, and I'm grateful for the fact that they did. I've received calls from numerous people who said, "Hey, Miss D, thank you very much. You saved my life. I didn't save your life. I just did something from my heart and our heart, you know." So I'm grateful to know that I gained a place in their heart, knowing that I did something right today, you know.
Right. And in your neighborhood, and food, I think, is very important because I
Right.
think food represents community. In
Right.
your neighborhood, what type of damages did you see personally from your
A
perspective?
lot, a lot of trees were down. Roofs was like there were shingles everywhere. Um, we gathered, my brother and I. We got up early this morning and we helped out. And we have several neighbors who their roofs were gone, and we helped pick up all the trash and all the debris from around the neighborhood, and the trees, the leaves, whatever we could have found. Some people lost their generators, their covers for certain things, and it was a bit, it's a bit rough. It still is, because when I left from home today, we still didn't have electricity, and it's after 9 or quarter to 10, something like that. So it's a major impact. I know a lot of food that was lost because there's a lot of frozen stuff that we cannot, get back, stuff like that.
Just so you know, FEMA, just an FYI, FEMA is, if you lose electricity and food, FEMA is compensating people. And I can send you that information that was shared with me. What did you
Right.
think about this hurricane coming your way? Because I know I was very traumatized. I literally had to turn off national media and I tuned into only local media because they were hyping up this hurricane as almost in a world type event. So how
That's
did you feel about it listening?
listening to the TV. When it comes to like the news, I thought the same, that it was like, hey, at one point I heard one of the governors saying that the mayor is actually saying that hey, if you don't move from your area, you'll die. I'm like, what is this? But the whole entire time, yes, I was prepared. We put up our shutters, we got our food. The only thing that I was worried about is the wind. Like I said, I keep God with me all the time, and I kept praying, and I said, God, you know how we stand as a community and where we are, and you know what kind of devastating impact this would have if it would hit us directly the way that it was coming. And I was like, it's up to you, Lord. It's up to you. Just, spare us, keep us safe, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed that it did slow down a bit, like when it comes to the pressure and all that, the wind speed and everything. It did become a less hurricane than it was in the very beginning, that really scared our people.
Yeah, I mean, I really related to that. I think what kind of got me to is so many family members saying, "Why aren't you evacuating? Why aren't
Right.
you evacuating?" And to me, that adds a level of stress because my community, which is Pasco, I know you're Hillsborough,
Hillsborough,
my
yeah.
community was saying you don't have to evacuate if you're not in an evacuation zone. Save it for the people who need to
Need it.
evacuate. So they're telling us to stay, but then you just like the mayor, I know the mayor for Tampa meant the evacuation zone,
All
but
right.
that's not how it came across.
All right.
And I came across if you don't get out of town, you're going to die.
Right.
And then I think that adds another level of panic because I belong to all these local community groups that discussing the hurricane, and people who are from out of town to me were the most scared. Like if you were new to Florida and this is your first hurricane, and somebody is telling you that it's a 5 and it's catastrophic, and they show the meteorologist crying on the phone. Well, I mean,
Right.
from the time he cried, I turned him off. I'm like, this is going too far now. You know, it's just sensationalism.
Right. Right. It was scary. It was scary. Just to think of it. It's scary.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, right now, what do you think as a Belizean community? What do you think we could do to possibly? I know the U.S. government and the local and the state governments are doing a lot, but how can Belizeans, you think, help each other out in this type of scenario?
I would think that, I mean, be there for each other, create some type of community effort whereby if one person needs help, we all get together and we help. I'm doing some volunteer work next week with a group in downtown Tampa to do a little bit of a cleanup. I
Okay.
can't remember their name right now, but I will do that next week. And like I said, just be there for each other. Each one teach one, each one takes care of one. That's,
Right. So you're heading to Miami now, right? Because big carnival about Miami this weekend, and while a lot of people think Miami or Tampa, I mean that's my experience with a lot of Belizeans. I think because of this hurricane, people finally know where Tampa is.
right, right.
Some people when they fly to Miami, they say, "Hey, you can't go see me in Miami," and you're like, "No, we are not anywhere near Miami."
Uh-huh.
So tell us what you're going to be doing in Miami so that people can support you, because you actually, even while you are suffering from blackouts and stuff, you and your mom decided for cook 40 meals. That's a lot. That are not limited meals, that's a 40 plate. So what are you doing in Miami so people are aware and they could support you? Where will you be?
Oh, okay, so first off, I have the dance with the Belize Association of South Florida. They're having a dance in let me get that address for you. They're having a dance actually at Italian American Civic League. That's on Dixie Highway in Hollywood, Florida. So where they have DJs like DJ Ras, DJ Fabulous, DJ Operator. So I'm catering to their event. Also, we have the jump up. The Belize Day actually in the park. That's in CB Smith, 900 Flamingo Road, Pembroke Pines. So I have both events that I'm doing this weekend, where I will have Belizean food, pudut, kong soup, kong sweaters, canales, the full works.
Man, I gotta call that.
You know what I'm excited about?
I gotta call that. Yeah, you imagine this hurricane, that kind of action that it happen like.
That's right. That's right.
That sound like Belizean for real.
It's all love. It's all love.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I like that spirit, Delmari. I like your spirit. I like your spirit. Positive vibes.
Thank you.
And she's in Tampa now, so Tampa now have tamales and everything that we never used to have before. That big.
Yeah.
That's big. So here, give us your number if you want to share it. If people want to pre-order, how they could go ahead and pre-order from you. Verlene, write it down right now because she here could do.
And like when you drive through, just stop in Palm Beach and drop off the hood, please.
Sure. So my number is 239-379-0610. And I'm reachable by Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at DD's BZ Corner.
And let me tell you, she actually comes to the Belizean Association of Central Florida. I don't know if you remember when I made post up Panades line.
Yeah.
That was her. It was like,
Okay.
It was. That was a good event as well.
yeah, Panades are like, I don't know, that the one thing
Big
I
seller.
have seen, if you sell it on a Belizean event, that the one time
Best Belizean appetizer.
That the one time they know for line up too, right? That's the time when they know for stand up in a line for Panades.
At the end of the line, when the customers, I was like, "Hey, I'm out of food." Everybody was like, "Oh."
Yeah, but Delmari, I come for that hood. I don't worry about no Panades. I come for
Sure,
Panades.
sure. I'll be out there. You find me. I'll be under the tent.
Yes, I
Perfect.
tell.
Of course. Traditional, right?
That's right. That's right.
So thank you very much, Delmar, for joining us. I know you're driving on the road to Miami. Please have a safe trip. And if
Yes, ma'am.
if you want to support her, she'll be at the Belizean Association of South Florida events. I think they have a dance and a picnic Saturday and Sunday. Is it Friday and Saturday?
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday. And so just look for their event and you should be able to find her. And remember that she donated on time and those plates to Belizean. She didn't have to do it. Nobody asked her to do it. And, this is how we build at Belizean community. So thanks very much for joining us, Delmari.
Thank you guys so much for having me. You guys have a safe night.
I'll see you on
man.
Saturday, Delmari, for Hudut.
All right. I look
Appreciate you.
forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Appreciate you there. You're a champion. I mean, look at all that inside of a catastrophic storm. You brought all this love for Belizeans who is affected. And your neighbors, not only Belizeans, but your American neighbors and colleagues and friends. That is really charity. You're the best.
Thank you. I try.
Thanks, Delmari. We'll talk to you later.
All right then. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Night.
And now we have our second guest, Verlene Pitts, who, by the way, is not related to Delmari Pitts. Verlene is our sister from Belmopan. You say hello, Belmopan people, Bilal?
Delmari in the house.
The capital rocks.
Delmari says she's
Capital
from
rocks.
Belmopan. So Verlene, by the way, was nowhere in the hurricane site.
Cone.
That they hang out, like, oh, poor other people of Florida, please go evacuate to my house, because she did offer me to evacuate to her place. To look for would have hit me, right? But before we get into that, Verlene, tell us a little bit about yourself. I never know full bio, but I want you to tell us your navel string connections, because that is show. So
all right, cool.
Where part you come from?
Cool. All right. So, raised in Belmopan. So a proud resident of Belmopan. Go back as often as I can. My mom is in Belmopan, and I think my connection to Belmopan is super strong because when you move to Belmopan at a very, very early age, it was really like a pioneer type community, right? And we were responsible, along with our parents, for building a community. So we grew up really, I think, community minded. And because it is the center of where government affairs happen, we grew up very civic minded. And so for me, my connection to Belize will remain strong. Navel string definitely buried there, just because of upbringing and everything that I was raised to value. So again, originally from Belmopan, always go back to Belmopan, but Belize as a country, I have a vested interest in making sure that I stay connected and my family has a connection to Belize as well. So living in South Florida, there's a lot of diversity. So all of Central and South America and the Caribbean, really, you could find in South Florida. And so my kids' experience at school would have them describe themselves very much as, half Belizean. So you have half Puerto Rican, half Colombian, half Haitian, that type of description for these first generation American kids. So they really embrace the Belizean culture. And so that's our experience here in South Florida. So
why did you leave Belmopan and when did you leave?
So I left in 99. I actually, was working on crime when I left. Neil Hall and I did a morning show on crime. I also wrote for the newspaper. I did publication.
When your article, Verlene, like I want your article, I dig up some old newspaper. I say, what?
Yes.
I would have to think that the other Verlene, and you.
So I used to write. So I found myself doing like a lot of things, as a young person in Belize. And I don't know if I felt like there wasn't like a lot of traction. I was doing like multiple things. And I figured, you know what? I'm not like super challenged and engaged. And so I was like, let me go study and then see how I could come back and contribute to Belize at the time. This is like circa 98, 99. We had a developing gang problem from what I could see. And so I wanted to do criminology and go into being able to help to solve some of the niggling problems that we were having, maybe coming up with programs that would help to curb crime. And again, just kind of merging it with the values that I grew up with in terms of growing up in Belmopan and how safe Belmopan was. We could walk home from school. I could walk to your house area at night. You might walk me halfway and then I go and walk you back halfway. And you know what I mean? Like that was our existence and our experience. And so we grew up with feeling safe and maybe taking it for granted. And when it started to get dangerous in Belize, and then just that awareness, you're growing up and you're realizing, oh, we are in charge of the environment that we live in, right? I wanted to be able to help to solve some of those problems. As life would have it, everything doesn't go as planned, so I didn't return immediately to Belize. I ended up, I went to school at Valdosta State, graduated and moved to Middle Georgia and lived with my cousin initially, got into real estate, and around that time, real estate was booming and it was, okay, I see what the American dream is really about. And so I ended up staying. I moved on to work for Geico in insurance, moved into leadership, learned a lot about strategy and about company culture and all of that. And so after living in the States for quite some time, in 2014, I decided, let me, give back to Belize and go back to Belize. And so I had an opportunity to work with BTL and help with their cultural transformation, helping them move from being monopolistic to being commercially competitive, right? And that takes a whole lot in terms of technology, in terms of mindset, of how you deliver customer service, how you deliver, just your whole strategy of how you're going to win in terms of marketing and all of that. So we had a goal to go ahead and have Belize move from being super slow in terms of speeds. So when you compared Belize in the Caribbean and in South America, Belize was in the last three along with Cuba and Haiti. So that's who we were beating. That wasn't good company, right? And so we had a goal to be the top three by the year 2020. So this was in 2014. And so there were strategic steps that the company would have had to take to be able to increase the internet speeds. And so I don't know if Belizeans really appreciate how much as a company BTL was able to go ahead and deliver so that, you could watch a show like this on Facebook and not have it buffer, right? And so before 2020, actually, the company, credit to the employees, they were able to go ahead and move Belize, not just to the goal of being top three in the region. Actually, they were number one for a while. I don't know what the status is to date, if they're still, number one, but the speeds improved. And so I moved back to the States and I do change management for Progressive. So back to insurance, but still in the same vein in terms of helping with strategy and looking at data and telling the story of what data tells. So right now, there's probably a lot of data about how much money, will have to be paid out based on, homes that were destroyed and vehicles that have been destroyed and, the forecasting that happens and all of that. So
I'm glad you mentioned that because let's talk a little bit about the hurricane. The hurricane was coming in at a 5 and then ended up as a 3. And it created, and not only that, we had Helene, which was the 2 weeks prior. Helene came in and created a serious surge. It never entered into Tampa Bay. It's just the water that came in from that hurricane that was 150 miles away. Devastated our area in Tampa. 9 people died in that surge. It was literally a surge. It wasn't a hurricane. So that's one event that happened. Insurance showed up. They must be crying right now. I mean, no bonuses this Christmas in Florida.
That's where data comes in, right? They rely on modeling and sophisticated ways of being able to forecast and predict how much so that you can set reserves, right? It's just like a household. If you know you spend this much and then historically this is how much you've been spending, right? And you're pulling other external data, you're looking at weather, you're looking at patterns to be able to gauge it, right? And so one of the things...
How do they predict 2 storms 2 weeks apart? And it's so many counties in Florida. It's not only one area.
So it's not predicting that, you'll have it back to back. It's predicting the amount of money, the worst possible scenario, right? it may not happen, right? But you do have to be able to set aside reserves, right? And that's the strength of an insurance company, to be able to set reserves properly so you don't go belly up and you can't pay out your claims.
So how does the insurance company, we got you an insurance thing, how does an insurance company deal with climate change? Is Florida a state that insurance company want to remain in? Because Florida will be severely impacted, being one of those states that are below sea level, and we don't have any hills to run to. It's literally flatlands, and it's a peninsula surrounded by water. So, in as a strategist, and even talking about reserve, the insurance would either become too unaffordable for the average person to pay, or the insurance is going to be running from the state, because it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a business, right? So
Yeah.
how does the insurance account for climate change when these things, for example, when this hurricane was coming, people were asking, is it possible to have a six? And I remember the meteorologist said that Earth doesn't even have the atmosphere to accommodate a six, or whatever that number people were thinking about. This is just one, these was two major storms back to back. What is your thoughts on those?
So, I can't speak specifically for any particular insurance company, but just my experience with two major companies that, household names. It really is about looking at the risk and spreading the risk, right? So I think most insurance companies, because they're dabbling in home and auto and what you call special lines, so your toys, right? Your boat, your motorcycles, that type of stuff. You really do want to go ahead and look at, while they underwrite based on you individually and what your habits are and where you live and what your driving history is in terms of accidents and tickets and all of that, the likelihood of you having to have the insurance company pay out, they underwrite individually for you. But also, the insurance companies look at it as a package. And when you're able to look to see how much business do we have in Florida and how can we offset it with a book of business in another area that they don't have these types of claims, right? It's juggling that. So it's not necessarily what I do, so I can't speak from an informed standpoint in depth about it. But I do know, we have discussions on being able to spread the risk properly. So if we know that we have this many in Florida, well, where is somewhere where we need to go ahead and have this many more so that it balances out? Because insurance is, looking at risk, and it is the law of large numbers. We all have to carry insurance, right? If you're on the road, you need your auto insurance. If you have a house and you have a mortgage, you need insurance. It's not even a matter of, I'll forego it, I won't get it. No, you have to have it. If you don't, the state will go ahead and put it on there for you, and you'll pay more for it. But as you know, living in Florida, insurance is one of the things that we're looking to the government to really help to regulate and make sure that, we can have insurance that's affordable, because it is becoming unaffordable. Your homeowners is, could be sky high. My auto, I have two young drivers under 25. So it's tough, right? And so when you see the amount of damage and all that to homes and auto and people's possessions, you then have to really appreciate, hey, there's a promise that I purchased, right? That now needs to pay out and be there for me. So yeah, it's tough.
And then what happens is, specifically flood insurance now, and I know we're not specifically speaking about your career or anything, but places flood that never flood before. Right in
Yes.
my neighborhood, right, the neighborhood next door flooded, and that has never, in my 20 something years in Florida, that has never flooded before. Today I was walking my neighborhood and I realized the big pond that's there was actually running into another nearby pond, and there's like a little river doing that, and that's probably what prevented our neighborhood from flooding. So
Wow.
basically, it's literally now flood insurance is ridiculous. If you live on the beach, and that's what people move to Florida for, a lot of people don't carry these insurances.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that were impacted by the surge didn't even have flood insurance.
Yeah.
And if the state makes it mandatory, they're going to force people to move out of where they're living, and that's going to get into a property rights lawsuit, because American and property rights, that's the ultimate right to do what the heck you want with your own property. So it's going to be a balance, and I don't want to criticize insurance because that's your forte, but maybe that's why government should provide services, because they're going to have to provide it anyway. We're going to pay FEMA for all these disasters. The government is going to do that. The state is going to intervene, and the local government. So why don't they just deal with disasters and then the rest of us just pay regular insurance? That's a different conversation. Let us
Completely different conversation.
let us talk about Palm Beach. So I'm in Tampa, Florida. Tampa is in the Gulf of Mexico. If somebody would ever have a direct flight to Belize, it would be the quickest flight, but nobody has decided to do that. But we are in the Gulf. If you cross over with a cross from Melcher, not Melcher, Melcher,
Tomato.
no, as you could see on the map, you saw it left from where I call it Quintana Roo, and it head
Cancun.
directly to Tampa. That's how close we really are. And now Palm Beach. Where is Palm Beach? Palm Beach is nowhere in the Gulf, right? Palm Beach,
Nowhere in the Gulf. So,
right?
so you have Miami, which everybody's familiar with, right? And that's Dade and Broward. So Broward is Fort Lauderdale. And of course I'll miss Pembroke Pines and Miramar and all of that stuff. Because I'm not familiar a whole lot with how,
Just tell them
Miami
you're in Trump County.
yes,
You're in
yes.
Trump County.
Unfortunately, he's right across. Yeah,
Yeah.
right across, right around the corner. So, Palm Beach is, I think, it's the largest county in Florida.
Is it?
So yeah, it is.
Palm Beach
It
is where?
Yeah, it is.
I thought it was Hillsborough.
No.
Okay.
Maybe we should Google it. Let's go ahead and check. But I always hear, and when I think about how big Palm Beach is, right? You have Del Rey, you have Wellington, you have Jupiter, you have Dania Beach. There's a bunch of different cities in Palm Beach County. I'm in Wellington. So Wellington is horse country. It's known for the equestrian culture that's here. So there's polo, and there's a winter Olympics that happens in Wellington. And so when I say horse country, yes, it is not rural, but there are a lot of ranches.
I'm trying to say it's rich. It's rich rural. It's not. It's not cows and horses, farm rural. It's galloping horses.
Yes, it's
riding
extravagant
horses.
ranch
Yeah.
for people who do dressage and play polo and all of this stuff.
But in Florida,
there's a lot
the
of land.
Atlantic side, right? You guys are closer to the Atlantic.
Correct. We're closer to the Atlantic. Yeah.
Right. So now we have a hurricane that's coming in from Tampa area, which is Tampa Bay, Sarasota, same thing, Pinellas, Tampa, where I'm Pasco. It's about
Hillsborough.
counties that encounters what Tampa Bay is, maybe 7 to 9 counties. That's on the opposite side. It's not only on the opposite side, it's north of you and the opposite side.
Completely. So like you did at Chetomal and I did at PG.
Yes, good. That's a good analogy. So now you did at Chetomal, I did at Chetomal, and the hurricane they hit me, and you call me and say, "Are you the evacuate?"
Please come. Like what you did today.
Right. Because you don't have any idea that this hurricane is going to affect your county too, right? So
Yeah, no, I was minding my own business.
You are even accommodating people who are evacuating.
Yes, so I have a childhood friend. Her daughter lives in Tampa. She calls, maybe it might have been like 1 o'clock the night. I said, absolutely. I've been trying to convince other people who are in Tampa to come. I have no reason why, I would say no. I really want. I said, please tell her she can get on the road, drive safely, and come before it's too late to evacuate. And so she gets on the road and she comes. It wasn't really, I was anticipating, and I think you told me, it'll take too long to drive. People are on the road, all this stuff, but it wasn't. I think there are a lot of people that came south, and it seemed counterintuitive for people to come deeper into Florida when...
Well, normally north. For some reason, normally they evacuate north, and the hurricane follow them north.
Yes.
So I guess they figure
they'll go south. And so, we're thinking complete safe zone, right? So Wednesday, I think, I was in meetings, and of course I'm listening, I'm monitoring, because I'm thinking, okay, landfall is, I think they bumped it up earlier, that the hurricane would get much earlier, right? So I am glued to this thing, and I'm seeing now. It's funny because there's several ways for you to get notified with emergencies, right? So there's the neighborhood app. People started chattering in there that they're, are you guys hearing the thunderstorm? What's going on? It looks like tornadoes are out here. There's the Ring doorbell app where neighbors just go ahead and, hey, there's a tornado that I'm seeing over here. You see it on Facebook, you see it on Instagram, then you see it on the local news, and then it was sirens and take cover immediately, right? So this was like around 4:30. And people were, posting pictures that they're out driving. Of course, if you're driving at the time, I guess the best thing to do is pull over and go into a ditch or something, but people were videoing, right? And so it was terrifying because the number of tornadoes was out of the ordinary. And so it might have been maybe 10 to 12 that touched down. So the damage was serious. I mean, some of the people in Wellington, where I live, suffered more damage than people who are actually in that cone of danger for the hurricane. So, lesson is that indeed, with a hurricane that strong, it spits out tornadoes, but you're never really out of danger. So you always have to be vigilant. So earlier that day, just because we wanted to be vigilant and we knew the wind was going to be extreme, we went ahead and closed our shutters and all of that stuff. So we did our own hurricane prep, even though we weren't expecting a hurricane. And so my son went and closed the shutters. So, they were in charge of, both of them were in charge of going ahead and closing stuff up and making sure, that we were battened down. And right after that, really, the tornadoes hit, and super close to me, like 2 neighborhoods away. There was one that showed on the local news where the
Sure.
the poles caught fire and all that was right on Big Blue, which is like just before you turn into our neighborhood. So while we were listening to it live, when they said, to take cover, we went into the hallway and, I could see on the radar where it showed this tornado was touching down, and it was right on Southern, which is like around the corner from me. So close call, we're safe. Made it out. There's absolutely no damage. But we had our own, experience. So my friend's daughter that came, she was concerned because she's from New York, just moved to Tampa. And this was her first experience with anything like that. She was like, "Hey, I thought I moved somewhere safe." I'm like, "Yeah, we're still safe, but
let her know Papa has tornadoes too, just so she's aware."
But this was not normal. You know what I mean? For us to have had to stay in the hallway when one hit, you can see people showing the damage, and then there's still more that are landing and hitting. So in Port St. Lucie, which is like 30 to 45 minutes from me, and there are a number of Belizeans in Port St. Lucie as well. That's St. Lucie County. That's not Palm Beach. There were, at least I think 5 to 8 deaths because of the tornadoes. So it was.
We have to take a break. We have to take a break, and then we're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk about some of these impacts. And Belize, for example, there's a lot of Belizeans that were impacted by this hurricane. But then we also need to think about our own country, Belize, So I know you didn't talk about the civic fellowship, but these are different things as civic-minded Belizeans, how these things have impact further. So let's take a break. And then
That's when he was getting excited. Ma, you want to bring up Verlene? Don't they hype me up already? I'm like, waiting, what's next? Like, suspense over here. When we come back.
A Mandela notice. Advertisers and readers are advised that due to the holiday, there will be no online Tuesday issue of the newspaper for October 15. There will only be the Friday issue, which will hit the streets on Friday, October 18, 2024. Happy Indigenous Peoples Resistance Day from the management and staff of Cremandala.
In Belize, we value our families, we value our communities, we value our neighbors. 90% of Belizeans think it's time for laws that protect all of us and reflect society at its best. 94% of Belizeans agree that public spaces in Belize should be more accessible to people living with disabilities. In Belize, we believe in fair treatment and supporting one another. We know that our beautiful country is at its best when we come together for the greater good. 2 out of 3 Belizeans support a new law to prevent discrimination in employment and public spaces. It shouldn't matter where we come from, who we love, or what we look like. Belizeans deserve to live our best lives. It's time for laws that protect all of us and reflect our society at its best. Equal Opportunities Bill. Belize, we're ready.
I am a true born Belizean. Belize my home, my native land. I want you people to understand. I am proud to be a Belizean. Your bande, your bande. Your bande, your bande.
Things talking about this is Devil String Connections. I'm Bilal Morris, live from Los Angeles with ARIA Lightfoot and Verlene Pitts, live out of Florida. Man, we are talking about this Hurricane Milton. And before that, Hurricane Helene, which hit Florida. I mean, you guys, I was watching a map. I watch the Weather Channel. I love the Weather Channel, right? Because they're very scientific, and I love that kind of meteorology.
No, they're sensational. All of them have an element of sensational.
Talk about your interview with Channel 7, man, because you said the people that make you feel like it was doomsday, right?
Good. I mean, I listened to this guy, Dennis Phillips, right? He's a local meteorologist, and he have a thing where say, when I panic, then a time for panic. It's about it is not time
That's
for
rule
panic.
7.
Yes, rule 7. If I panic, my time for panic. I am not panicking yet. So that was how most people were defining whether or not they should move or not. Meanwhile, switch over to Weather Channel and the regular media. This guy is crying on TV.
Are you serious, sir? Which one of them?
Some older meteorologists, and they play that over and over like this at doomsday. Even though Dennis Phillips had said it's a 5, but it's not sustainable and it's going to reduce its power. That's not what the channel was saying. Weather Channel was more interested to me in the size of this hurricane.
Yeah, that's exactly.
They never really talk about future, and it was painstaking because it started as a tropical depression. It moved up, and Dennis Phillips predicted it would have gone to a 5. Because when I said, what, a 5? Somebody commented and said, what you talk about? This is a small hurricane. And I tell her, well, Dennis Phillips, I trust him. I trust him through all these different storms. And he was the only one that predicted it would have become a 5, and then it would reduce after becoming a 5. But when it hit 5, nobody cared anymore. Everybody just got fascinated with the 5. And then that affect people's mental health because
it went from 5 to 4, then back to 5.
Yeah.
It never helped that the Tampa mayor got on TV, even though we knew that she was talking about people who lived on the coast. Got on TV and said, if you don't move, you're going to die. I mean, come on, that's just language that I don't think politicians should use.
But you got to evacuate people, Aria. You got to get them moving.
But to me, there's a difference with speaking the truth versus scaring people into evacuation, because people don't do things rationally when they're scared.
Yeah.
Then we had to have a Florida man, Mr. Captain
Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, we decided he was staying at the bay because the boat going up, if the waves go up. So I expect they do a fundraiser and Captain Dan will make $1 million off the nonsense. Like they were making, it was a sensation, like it's clickbait in America right now. If it's a story that's driving them just to push more and more stories while you are actually panicking because all your Belize family, they call you and your friends are Verlene. Yeah, when you still do that, why you not left, you not see the media? And listen, the whole night when the hurricane started, when the hurricane landed, I feel like I watched the news every second while that thing landed. because you don't know because if it turn right, it can't turn. If it turn left, this and that. So they have all their scenarios that they put in your head. When the wind blows, the wind will howl. All right? FYI, that the only person panicking at my house. My son upset because I got everybody back at the house because we have 2 large trees up front. So he upset he can't play video games. So he just get up and go sleep, like no type of scared, whatever. And of course, Sean are like, why you the panic? This is America. This, that type of comfort that people have with the authorities. When the authorities don't tell you, once the hurricane start, we're not rescuing anybody. And Pasco sent out one alert that says all rescue services have been canceled because, like Verlene said, you get one text, you get one call, you get an email, and every group, every neighborhood group light up when their type of alerts go. Hey, they're not rescuing, and then that when other people panic. And remember, we have a mental health crisis in America. So when you create that level of panic, you don't know how people want to react to the level of panic.
Steering.
When the hurricane dumped to our 2, and then you start to hear that the wind was less and less and less, I literally felt myself relax. Like I could not sleep before, but it felt, you know what it reminded me of? The pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
At the level of scaring the public into action.
Yes.
The pandemic was worse for me because it feels like something you can't control, which you can't. And then here comes the sensationalist with the end of world scenarios. And then here comes the other people we have to go into everywhere people died from hurricane scenarios. And that to me, that is driving a fear and this narrative that is so prevalent, and it's prevalent in our politics now. It's scaring people, but I don't think there was a solution. No, that's why Verlene relaxed, because instead of the talk real science, where you said a science, Verlene said, oh, I did a Wellington. But this hurricane spawned over 100 tornadoes.
It's like, for example, I just think, ARIA, that those meteorologists, I respect them deeply, because I remember in Iris, you had a boat that believes, they down south. They loaned 238 of them. And then it's like Musa called the whole state of emergency, all craft off the seas, this thing they come. But then everybody else from the south where they work on the boat fled. But they stayed on the boat. Remember that?
Yes.
Kill all of them.
Yes.
You can't take things for lightly. You can't take things for lightly. This is astounding things that don't know play.
But Belizeans don't do the same panic thing that American media does. Belize, and the other difference I think is Belize force evacuations. If you do, they don't want to move you or carry you, they want a safe spot. They don't want to entertain you with your nonsense about how I want to stay here and I want to ride this out. We don't do that at Belize, right? We want to move them people for their own benefit. But here, you go touch somebody and they want to sue. Next thing they live, God forbid you go save their life, you end up into a lawsuit. Who tell you could have touch me, imprison me? So that like culturally there's a difference. Belize. I respect bullying.
That's one of their favorite.
I could give you a news report from Belize right now. The sea light chapter, the sun will rise at 6 a.m. and it will set.
I think I could just press record and just add the new date.
I could do it. I could definitely give you the news thing. But what you're saying in terms of the level of panic is very, very true, because I was trying not to panic for you, but when I hear 165 miles per hour winds, I said, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Then the surge that was expected, if it went into
In
Tampa
the
Bay.
life, in the world surge, may I be 20 feet tall, remember?
Yes,
Hi.
20 feet. And I said, you know what? I don't want to call her and panic her because at this time I'm fielding calls from all over, friends and family in the US and in Belize, right? So I don't want to add to the calls that I know you're getting. But I'll tell you when I ended up calling you, Aria. When I heard the news reporter say, no, the mayor, I think, or it wasn't the governor, because it wasn't DeSantis that said it.
It's the mayor.
But they said, write your name and your social security number on your body if you are staying, because you will be identified. That is a way to identify you. Then I said, okay, let me call Aria and make one last offer.
Said that.
I'm from Belmopan. I used to shelter people. No worry, you could come.
Listen, they really meant people on the coastal areas. But they never said that. They just say it in a way that made it sound like,
make it sound like that.
Well, just get washed over with this and the world flood.
Yeah, end of the world.
Can you imagine? Write your name and your social security number on your arm so you can be identified. Okay?
And that's why her friend ran from Tampa, because she's new. So she doesn't even understand every year she'll be going through this until she becomes like the rest of Tampa. When it hit me, I would believe it, because
not only that, like, she had concerns of, will the Sharpie that I write my name and social security number, will that wash off?
That's the panic. That's what they do over here, okay? They scare you, and it wasn't only you. I get calls all the way from Europe. I get calls from people I don't hear for ages. Like, like, Aria, you that are Tampa, why you not left right now? Because all of they tune into Weather Channel. I think CNN is the worst. That's just my opinion. CNN loves to draw maps. Then I explained that the map just mean that they win with it over Tampa. They put one big red blot over Tampa, and red, in a people's mind, red automatically means danger. So then they create their visual stuff, and then they scare the heck out of people's family members. You know, but
a lot of exaggeration.
But listen, I never lose power. I am happy for that. We never lose internet. Yes, the fence in the back got blown down and some shingles off the roof. But today in Tampa, a woman died. She stepped out her house and a tree limb fell on her. People right by USF, where a lot of students are, they had serious flooding when in the drive around in our boat, like the boat, they pick up people. That know how much flooding, and these are areas that has never flooded before. So that they tell you that the water is rising. It's not a lie.
Yeah.
Yes. Climate change doesn't necessarily mean global warming. Right now, we are looking for start of snow soon because the weather is already cooling down.
Had a lot of rain. A hurricane brought a lot of rain, right?
And it brought cold weather.
Yeah. We might get bad winter storms this year too. We don't know. So with that being said, because one of the things me and Verlene actually do together, sorry for my English, because I know Verlene is an English major, but one of the things we do together is
speaking curl in your English.
We do this civic fellowship program where we try to raise the level of awareness with civics, I believe, because I feel like me and her grew up in a very civic-minded Belmopan, where I don't know if she experienced that because she lived opposite direction than me, but I had to pass George Price's house to go to school and pass it back to go home. And he used to stand outside when we were kids, little kids. He used to stand outside as we were passing by, and he used to tell me,
picking up garbage too. He's picking up garbage.
You need to keep your country clean. You need to love your country. And he used to tell all the kids that. Some of them upstart. I still remember this young boy said, "But Mr. Price, if I do that, you only take what jobs for people. You don't know his period political, but you know what I mean. For the most part, you know what it is for your prime minister. Then I experience what I don't think what a lot of people have felt. You know what it is for having your prime minister so humble, they walk the streets, they engage young people. Because when we made a group, we used to admire politicians, we used to admire our police. I said we used to walk past police and say, "Good afternoon, Mr. Policeman," or "Good morning." Or when you sit it with the ride the bike, you'll see a police, you hurry jump off your bike.
Real civic.
Yes.
Right, because you know you're not supposed to do something.
Ride the bike on the walkway.
That be the rule of Belmopan. When you see them police, you still have this big respect. But what has happened, I think, I call it the reality TV generation. I think reality TV changed the way we interact with each other and we normalize negative things. And so what you say, I feel what is happening in American politics, Trump is a reality TV star. And so people admire media, they admire this. We become more me-minded and we lose civic mindedness where we go, like Verlene said in the beginning, we grew up, even Belize City, back then, we grew up in our community. You see how that young lady talk about, she jump into action and cook 40 meals.
Yeah.
That the Belize I grew up with, in somebody, sick, something that happened, Belizeans jump into action and they help. You see it with Ladyville highlights all the time. They highlight one case, Belizeans jump in for try to solve the problem. Why is it that we politicians, not to talk politics, but we need that level of, with our small country, our climate change. Look at Tampa. Tampa is a very big place. Tampa have almost 4 million people. Half of the city is without electricity. 2 million, up to 2 to 3 million are without electricity right now. My stepson is with me right now, he and his family, because they don't have electricity at their place. My other stepson, he had 3 feet of water in his house. My son, they had one leak. They don't have electricity, but he stayed with his mother-in-law because she's right around the corner. And so that's all I'm saying. Like, this is our city, and it still take a couple weeks for me they solve this. What will happen to Belize if we're category 3? We don't even think about 5. Most of the structures where you see that Belize where people are living now.
But then they don't have malaria. I risk it.
You see how bad
hurricane and I'm like 3.
No man, they hit Belize at a 1.
What that Keith or Iris and then there?
Belize City recently got hit directly. Belize City got hit by category 1. I used to the destruction where category 1 do that Belize City.
Yeah.
What way I do it was 3. 3 was killing a lot of people.
You say Hattie was like 4.
Yeah.
And devastation. Imagine 1931. Then you couldn't even forecast that.
My grandmother told me at 31, she said, vaguely that I remember, she said that the sea rolled back.
Yes.
And a lot of people walked out to it because they didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
And
like
that's
a tsunami.
My granduncle, he was 80-something years old, and he lost his 2-year-old daughter in Haiti. And at 80-something years old, when he tell a story, he started crying. That trauma, you know what I mean? That trauma that we have to have a plan. One of the things I was saying is we need a 10-year, 25-year, 50 and 100-year plan. And this plan has to be agreed on by PUP, UDP, PNP, NIP, whatever P is there. They have to all agree to this plan so that they can pass it on and become a political volleyball.
Yeah, we talk about plan. Talk about plan, ARIA. You and Verlene both come from a country where there's a lot of hurricanes. You're living in a state in the United States that has a lot of hurricanes. It appears that both of you understand the whole hurricane fervor, that whole culture that comes with the hurricane. I guess that's why you both did not panic too much, apparently. You're looking at sort of how Americans look at, they don't look at it like how we look at it. But then, as you are saying, how do we then, from both of your perspectives, looking from this storm, Milton, and then Helene, you're talking about a 5-year plan, but what would you all say that Belize, looking from out of Florida yourselves, now Belizeans living in the diaspora in Florida, another hurricane zone, how do you all feel that best Belize can prepare itself in this age in preparation for this whole climate change hurricanes that are coming?
So I think, okay, so I think it is a little bit about what ARIA had said in terms of trust in institutions, right? And so when the time comes where we don't have any control over the weather, right? But there are certain things that we have entrusted authorities to have control and have a plan set for us to be able to follow, right? And so I think just the whole idea of there are people that are in charge in terms of authority, you know right away that the government, first of all, when you purchased your home or you built your home, you were not allowed to cut corners with it. You had to have code enforcement, right? And so if, let's say, you built from scratch and you got a building loan, right? When they did another draw for you to be able to go ahead and get another amount of money, you had to have a code enforcement person come and check and see, okay, yeah, this, meets the standards, right? So that's one thing, right? So then you trust that the impact windows that you have and the structure that you've built, or if you buy a home that's a high rise, you trust that
on the roof.
Yeah,
you can go with the roof.
And Florida is big on enforcement for codes, right? And so you pay for it, but you learn that you can rely on it when the time comes. That's one, right? The next thing in terms of, being able to participate in voting for people who are articulating values that you have, right? And so you have to rely on these people's leadership for them to not panic, right? Forget the media, but people that are making good decisions and saying, okay, we're providing for XYZ. Some of the things that I know that they do in Florida, right, for hurricanes, when we wanted to evacuate, everything was one way, right? When it's hitting South Florida, you're going up north and nobody north is going in the other direction. So actually, you could use the lanes that should be coming south. You can use that to go north because all roads, just because of how Florida is built, leading north, right? They open up the shoulders of the road, right? And so even that becomes important. But even that becomes important in terms of the shoulder of how the road is built, right? That can become a lane. That believes you can't ride on no shoulder, right? It's not possible. So you see how government then impacts your life and impacts how safe you feel and how much whether you're able to do it for yourself or you need to rely on them to be able to do for you. And then the next thing is the aftermath, right? One of the things for me that I get emotional about just because I worked for a public utility like BTL, right? And I have people that are my friends and relatives that work at BEL. I'm always encouraging them when there's a disaster of how do you make people really appreciate you and your service that you bring, right? Because when you're leaving Florida, you're seeing all the utility companies coming in droves, and it looks like a force to be reckoned with. And you know you're running from danger and they are running to help, so that your life afterwards is not as inconvenienced because of this, event that you had no control over, right? So depending on people who understand what they're tasked with, right? And then of course for me, insurance, right? I managed a group of adjusters that would adjust claims. One of the first things that you have to do is just make sure, hey, are you okay? Right? And you want to cut the check as quickly as possible so people can go ahead and move forward, right? And that's really like what you have to rely on. And so all that takes planning, so that when something happens, you are then not panicked, because you could kind of predict these things will be in place. And then now you can, with a cool head, make the right decisions for you and your family.
So I will just, because I do work within construction here in the US, and she's very right, code enforcement is very major. Every step of the way has to be inspected before they're going to pass it. If you're going to sell a home, it has to be inspected to get even a mortgage for it. I was speaking to a bank manager in Belize when I went a couple months ago, and he was telling me that he is actually shocked of some of the quality houses that they're allowing to be sold in Belize, made out of not plywood, but what do you think called it? Zinc, the zinc-like sidings that they're doing, which is extremely dangerous. So my plan for Belize would be, you have to get one bunch of engineers and city planners. You have to formulate that group, and it has to be non-political, because you don't want to start something, election change, or while you're doing it, it's being criticized so much that they offset it. So it has to be genuine, and it has to be done non-political. The second thing that they need to do, they need for start to tag all structures of Belize, and they need for create one code enforcement office, and I know they have it, but I thought about one that is actively involved in society. They're gonna tag houses. If the house is owned by a landlord, they have to start to make landlords register, because by forcing them to register, you force them off standards. Belize, some of the houses rising and rent to people would not be allowed here. If you rent your house to somebody, they have minimum standards you have your house under. To me, if they could do it for Airbnb, where you could only rent to a certain house to tourists, you're supposed to be able to do that for your own Belizean people.
Absolutely.
Minimum standards in your society. The other thing is, I feel like the need for do is, we need for have one serious evacuation plan, and we need for build one structure that can house one large amount of people. It cannot be the high schools anymore, because the high schools cannot seriously sustain. They have to do their inspections.
Yeah.
Have to have it.
These hurricane shelters.
Yes, they have to build.
Substandard.
When they do it here, they use stadiums here. So like for USF, several of their structures are hurricane shelters. If a national emergency come on, there are certain structures you don't know, and their structures have to be inspected every year. Every year they have to do it one inspection before hurricane season start. You have to start your inspection for make sure their structures, because I tell you, with the hurricanes that we're seeing, 5 have always existed, but it's the frequencies that we're seeing now. So they're not like you get 5, 30
severity.
Later, you don't see it again. We did get, look on Tampa. Tampa got one 5. When they even come to Tampa, still created serious damage 150 miles away. And now you have one 2 weeks later that hit the 5 level, but still it was 2 weeks later, And we're still not done with hurricane season. We literally have 6 more weeks of hurricane season to go.
And when you watch the Weather Channel, they line right up back at one another.
Right. And so
Growing
Belize
up, coming up.
so what happens if now it is in the Caribbean Sea and not the Gulf? What happens if the front of Belize? Like, what the our plan? And this is why I always push Belizeans for stop think about politics in the lowest denominator. If you choose one leader, you have to look on their personalities. You have to see how they live their own life. Because if they cannot control things in their own environment, if they're not even taking care of their own constituency, how the heck they take care of your country when the time is ready for them start to make decisions for
the natural disaster? Yeah.
And honestly, I know the mayor of Belize said they had a lot of criticism when they started to break down their old house. I 100% support that.
Absolutely.
You Belizeans should not accept one low standard of living. We're not supposed to satisfy with only electricity and water bill. You need, Belize have enough resources. I hate to say, with a small country, the county where I live in, a Pasco County, smaller than the by size of Belize, and we still have 150,000 people more than Belize. And they consider Pasco land rich. Belize have one lot of land and resources, and one little tiny amount of people. We don't have to have people who lift up at each other for one. We could actually give people space for live. We don't have to build 1-bedroom houses for Belizeans. If 50 years ago we never made it build it, why are we doing it today?
But the whole concept of building Belmopan because Hattie destroyed the capital city Belize City. So ARIA
and that came with planning. That came with planning.
Yes, it did.
Everybody Belize City thing. I mean, it's not the only options we have as a hurricane protective zone. I think it was a good idea for Prime Minister George Caleb Price to say, okay, I think destroy the capital, we'll move it to Belmopan Highland, right? Mm-hmm. But it somehow we still get caught up, and our people are still, the Belize City people, and still get messed up in it. How many people could reach Belmopan?
Well, but at this stage, we could build 5 Belmopan, like right now.
That's
and I don't want to drop for Sabre Realty. Right now, he do 5 developments.
High ground.
He's not a private person. He not got the resources our government have. There are not things where if government doesn't want to do it, they're talking about with Feinstein because that's good for national development. But you did tell me that you say one developer to build 5 different communities. Government could support something like that because it takes the strain off of government for doing it. But everybody that believes, unfortunately, everybody they look for a hustle, and that I feel like we're not the plan.
I want to say the hurricane thing like FEMA. Like what's the name of Belize's hurricane preparedness?
It's
Nemo. What's both of your perspectives on Nemo?
Well,
you guys have lived in FEMA's headquarters in the United States.
I was in Belize during Hurricane Mitch, and I worked at one of the Belmopan shelters.
Me too.
Belize is very good with Belize is good with disaster, you know. But somewhere along the way, we lose our way. Like everybody know, all we politicians, they want to be businessman. All of them become politicians, they want to be businessman. They want. If you want to be businessman, be a businessman. If you want to be a politician, you have to work for the benefit of the people. That's all I'm asking. If you want to be a businessman, be the businessman, but we're just too small. We endanger the community when we not have rules, when we hate rules, when we not like accountability. We endanger ourselves. And that's all we are to say. We're in a climate change environment. And climate change environment is catastrophic. Like if when my grandmother was young, the 31 hurricane killed 3,000 people. Could you imagine how small the population was back then? Hattie killed about the same amount of people, right? Imagine right now, we are so interconnected. If 3,000 Belizeans dead right now, all of we want to get touched. the one with family, with cousin, with friend, with brother, friend. That's how small we are. We do not want a hurricane will rave through there and kill with family members. And to me, that's how we have to think about leadership.
Yeah.
Leaders are there to create collective projects for benefit all Belizeans. Whether you're red or blue or pink or whatever you want to be, when you walk in at a shopping center, that you pay tax. When they take the money out of the salary, that you pay tax. If that's the case, when the PUP they in, only the PUP they pay tax. When the UDP they in, only the UDP they pay tax. And then all the independents start pay tax. I bet you then we would start to see politics in a different light. But we are all paying taxes. We are all Belizeans, and we all want the best for, even the politicians, they know they want the best for Belize. I don't believe that any politician want badly for Belize, but I think we need for elevate thinking, and we need for elevate responsibilities as politicians. And we need for look back to George Price, and we need to look back to Philip Wilson.
Vision. Yeah.
We need that. We need to go back to that.
Verlene, Nemo.
So I agree with ARIA. I think with, disaster planning, at least what I was exposed to, and I was in Belmopan, Mitch was 98? So I was in Belmopan at that time. And, growing up in Belmopan, you're familiar with people in government, right? And so volunteering, going to help out at the shelters was something that as a young person you would just naturally do. And I remember, I think Ms. Chavaria Matilda is who we went to her and Miss Marion McNabb to say, hey, we want to volunteer. And we helped with feeding people. We helped with,
How to accommodate all the Belize to the people in the run family.
I remember people, you had pregnant people. It was amazing to see. But it was organized.
Yeah.
And you saw leadership in action.
Public
officers were, all hands on deck. And but luckily it didn't hit. Because I don't know if a category 5 had hit, what would have happened.
We would have been done. But we got to wrap up because Harlan, they said, hey, I got to go to sleep. We on the guys till the door up just because I could stay up for hurricane. I'm just kidding.
How nice it was good to talk about hurricane, Harlan, he's getting... Yeah, but ladies, that was some good perspectives. I mean, they're right at the spot, man. The belly of the beast, right?
Yeah.
And it was so refreshing to hear the perspectives being on the boat live right there in that zone where that hurricane hit. So I know Belizeans who are listening, they are worrying about their loved ones they have in Florida, and you guys give them some hope, I think, by sharing your experiences, man.
Yes, so Verlene, thank you so very much for coming on at this last minute. And also Delmari, who is headed to Miami, please support her.
Delmari, I gotta come from a hood.
Well, I have to tell me that Kamales is in Tampa. That I don't understand. That she'd bring delicacy into the region.
Yes, man.
But thank you, Verlene. Do you have any parting shots or anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, I think, having this discussion in terms of what we experience, right, is always fun, especially when there's no damage and no loss of life. So thank goodness for that. But also, looking at it from that perspective of how do we plan and prepare, because there is climate change, right? Whether you believe it or not, feelings and facts, it no matter. It exists, right? And you'll feel the effects of it, whether you believe it or not. And so for us to talk about it and you know, as Belizeans with Navel String, buried the Belize, we're always looking from a lens of what are we learning here and how can we then leverage that to help Belize progress, because we're all still very involved as Belizeans, as born Belizeans, in building the nation. Nation building doesn't stop. I mean, America is an experiment and it is iterative, right? They're continuously trying to live up to the ideals that the founding fathers set. And in Belize, I think that we're no different. We will continuously be building a nation.
And with that, Aria, what is your parting shot? I mean, you're in the evacuation zone.
I feel so fortunate, to be honest, because there are people who right now, Belizeans, that do not have electricity, that have been flooded out, that had serious impact. So while I escaped it, a lot of people did not. I am very happy. And thank you for people who did reach out. Appreciate it. I'm a very good friend, Verlene, because, you know, people just open their spaces for you. To me, that deep, that's very important, that somebody want to open their space for you for say, hey, I know you to go through this, come in at my house, I open up my house, because that's who we are as Belizeans. That's the Belize where I grew up with, you know. As Verlene said, hurricane, I mean, like, the one hurricane I had in Belize, it was the most fun I ever had. Yes. The Cuban doctor stayed at my house, and I had all kind of Cuban festivities, and then we had like 3 different families staying with us in our little 3-bedroom house. So that's who we grew up with as Belizean. And the young lady that came on initially, she exemplified who our Belizean is. Remember, we're going to talk about that, Verlene.
Yes, we will. Who we are.
Who we are, what makes us Belizean.
What makes us Belizean.
That Belizean hospitality. Yeah.
And it's not negative, because my experience with Belize is no matter what part people come from, no matter how bad they pick me bad sometimes, you put them in the right environment and you see how the kindness and stuff come out of it. So I think 400,000 people, we're too small. We're too small for make we're not there further than we are. So that's my parting shot. And Bilal, thank you so much for being our host.
Oh, yes, I had to be at this discussion today. What? I like to talk about hurricane. Ladies, it was good to see you all both safe, man. And your 2 Belizeans living in the diaspora right there in Florida. And to see that you're safe and that you're sharing your experiences with Hurricane Milton and sharing it with our Belizeans who are listening. And with that, we want to say this is Navel String Connections. I'm Bilal Morris with ARIA LIGHTFOOT and Verlene Pitts in Florida, giving us that hurricane report, that post-hurricane report. And ladies, it's still developing. I mean, look at Helene. After so many weeks, then they start finding more and more and more results start coming in. So we want to cross our fingers that no other Belizean or no Belizean will be having loss of life in the Florida area as the searching and so on continues. And again, this is a XTV production. I'm Bilal Morris. We want to thank Holland in the studios. This is also a production of XTV. Nur Muhammad is our producer. And tune in again next week for another episode of Navel String Connection right here on XTV. And again, I want to tell you and say hi to everybody out there and say thank you for watching. See you next week.
I am a true man, Belizean. Belize my home, my native land. I want you people to understand